So our final presenter is a fellow startup co-founder with his company called Lorenta.io. He is currently the Associate Director of Global Data Science for Artificial Intelligence at pharma giant MSD. So please welcome Mr. Jason Tamara Wijaja.
Hi everyone, can you see my screen? So thanks very much for the conversation so far. And as mentioned, I'm a bit more of a practitioner, and I lead a team of about 35 AI ML engineers. And so I'll be talking a bit more on like for people who are working on AI systems today or tomorrow, very present between now and the near future, how would we work alongside machines? Because of time, I'll just give us two handles. One is a bit of a overview of some issues in working alongside AI systems, and the second is maybe a couple of frameworks in how we can think about this concept of working and developing human-centric AI solutions. So I'll start with a very quick stat, and you can ask yourself how much we pay for a self-driving car. And a recent survey showed this result. For those of you who with sharp eyes, maybe the first thing that comes to your mind is this not in Singapore because car prices are not so low, but also it doesn't add up to 100 because fully half of our population is not comfortable no matter how much you give them, or even you give them a self-driving car for free to step into a self-driving car, because we don't trust it. And as many of the other speakers have alluded to, the way we make decisions and the way machines make decisions are not the same. And so sometimes it's not very helpful to pit us kind of comparing us and AI systems all the time. AI systems are optimizing machines, and so they do these decisions without having things like ethics, compassion, empathy, and common sense that we kind of take for granted in humans, and that causes unintended harm. So depending on where you are in an angle you're looking at this at, there are so many things between us and trusted AI. I really like the previous presentation on model bias, and I think that is the wall of many AI teams today. You have explainability, the use of data, ethical design. But if you are a digital leader or a leader of a company, you are thinking of things like embedding these things into your enterprise processes. You're thinking about who is liable if it goes wrong, and so on. And yet further out, there are things that are beyond the scope of companies, and we talk about national policy things like job displacements, like long-term skills loss, and this term mental security is trying to describe the concept of living in a world where we are not sure whether the things we are reading, perhaps online, is real. And do we have a right to mental security where the things we read is real? And over at the far end, without going too far into controversial space, there is like a different research efforts on artificial general intelligence and singularity and things like that. And also to pick on Chuan's point, value loading, the way we make AI systems align with our values is also an active area of research. But the gap between here and there is quite large. So in the questions, I think there was someone who talked about the gap between what developers and engineers know today on ethics and where we need to be. And I think this result kind of makes that play out. So I think as of a few months ago, in a worldwide survey, in the region of 15 to 18% of respondents said that, today we are dealing with issues of bias. Today we're learning about AI ethics. And so there is a lot of work to do. And also this year happens to be a milestone and not a very happy one, where I think for the first time, we have a person who was arrested based on faulty facial recognition. So this is not like kind of an abstract concept, but it's something that's happening to us today. So let me switch tack, and so I kind of covered issues, and let me switch tack to talk about one or two things that we can do in building these human-centric AI systems. And I'm based in Singapore, and my team contributed to Singapore's Model AI Governance Framework, and we are very engaged with this work. And so I'll pick the two buckets of considerations from that framework. The first one is explainable, transparent, and fair. And this is really about understand how AI systems make decisions and then embedding these ethical considerations. And that's quite a complicated space in itself. The other one is thinking about how we can make our solutions more human-centric. So I'll pick on the first one. And just to unpack the terms, I think the language, we often use it quite loosely. But again, you can think about it in terms of a bit of a cascade. So like what David mentioned, there are explainability technical work that we can do to make our machine learning algorithms auditable. But we can't leave it at a pure technical level. We also need people who are users to interpret. So and understand what these explanations are trying to put across. And at the organizational level, we want to have transparency in terms of a policy. To give an example, imagine in the future, 10 years time, and you take Grab or Gojek, maybe they're combined, maybe they're still around, but maybe you might want to know that the Grab or Gojek that you are ordering is a self-driving car, autonomous system, or is being driven by a human being. So disclosure of whether you are interacting with an AI system is every bit as important as kind of technical explainability over in the algorithm level. There's also the idea of the way we work alongside systems. And there's lots of detail underneath how we choose. But I think a good rule of thumb is to think about how much harm is involved. On the one end of the spectrum, imagine you are watching YouTube. Someone recommends you something you don't like. You scroll and no harm done. So you can have a human out of the loop. Somewhere in the middle, for a newsfeed, you may not want someone to approve every single article that you see, but yet you might want to have someone monitoring for things like safety and risk. So that would be a human over the loop model. And finally, on the far end, I think this was brought up a few times today, and it's great that we align on that. There's a whole a bucket of use cases where we do not want the machine to decide on our behalf. Things with health harm, financial harm, career harm. These are things that AI acts as a second opinion, but a human still decides. And also, to take a step back, it's not just about automate and not automate, but also it's about, I think we need to also exercise our imagination. And this is just an example of, I think, good human-centric design, where instead of taking away jobs we want to do, we actually use AI systems to enable people who are unable to join the workforce to participate in the workforce. And that's an element of human-centric design as well. So I'll not go into this. This is actually what we practice at work. Is kind of like a framework, kind of an embedded process to make sure that these conversations occur when they need to occur. And I'll just go straight to the last point, which is I think if I can summarize what I want to come across, to bring across today, we can't buy AI ethics. It is something that is very human, and we want to embed these ethical discussions in the process of AI system design because we have different senses of right and wrong. Second, in terms of the most common type of AI systems, which are machine learning systems, they're optimizing towards a goal. And we need to think hard and not just unconsciously accept what we want them to optimize for. And thirdly, I think I just want to thank everyone for participating in today's session. It is not early, it is not late, but we do have an opportunity to shape the nature of AI solutions.